In fact, actually, I'll tell you, my own father, who is an interesting scoundrel, and he had some really sweet points to him, and he was always the life of the party and a lot of fun. He also was kind of a career criminal, and he did enough crazy things in his life that he lived a pretty cautionary life, things that you wouldn't want your kids to repeat. I remember the days when he couldn't go out of the house because he had an ankle monitor on because, the feds had him pinned down because he did that much stuff. Hey, it's the Bootstrapped Unicorns podcast, and I'm Josh Pies, your host, and this is episode 2, which is exciting, right? We got past the big one. Last time we talked really about who the heck I am, and it was kind of a fun trip down memory lane. If you didn't listen, we started from the time I was 4 years old. Yes, we went back that far, and you really should go listen to it because I think a lot of people call BS when I say I've been an entrepreneur since I was 4 years old. Legit. I was like cash positive at that young age, and it's a lot of fun living the life of somebody who's as passionate about entrepreneurship as I am. My full-time existence, what pays the bills, is actually digital marketing and the entertainment industry. Some people would slip and just call me a video professional, and that's really true. That's the entrepreneurial venture that I am actually actively involved in and passionate about. But I've been involved in so much because the world of entrepreneurship is exciting, and it's a chess game, and it's hard to navigate, but it's easy to navigate, and you can get these big visions that are infectious and you want to chase them. And and I'm all about, fail cheap, fail quick, and move on. And then you find the big thing, and then you double down and triple down, and you keep growing. And it's just, I don't know, it's just one of the coolest ways to be. And hopefully you agree. And so as podcasts go, I don't know if you knew this about podcasts, but there's a lot of people who say that the first couple of episodes, even if it's a hosted interview show, which this will be in a couple of episodes, by the way, you kind of set the tone about who you are and what you're doing, because people, even after episode 1000, go back and they poke around and they listen and they check out where you started and who you are. Well, this is where we started, and I'm thrilled that you're here for this journey. So what I want to do today is kind of let you know why we're even doing this. And I have this theory called the Legacy Impact Matrix. I've never seen it anywhere. I kind of made it up, but I think the logic makes a lot of sense. I'd say it's 78% baked. And if you believe that, they say that 87% of statistics are made up on the spot. I think that's the statistic. So, 78% is a good number, right? Why not? So I'm going to get into the Legacy Impact Matrix and explain my theory. And ultimately, I'll tell you right now, what it comes down to is that there's two groups of people that I really am focused on right now with the Bootstrapped Unicorns podcast. There's the guests and the listeners, right? Our listeners and our viewers, you in the audience, I'm hoping we've got a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of people who know and love entrepreneurs or have entrepreneurial duties in business. And this is terrible. I have a 5-year-old who's been watching Boss Baby a lot. I even wisecracked about it in some recent content. I said duties and I snickered because they make jokes about that through the entire show. And yes, I'm a dad, and I admit, and I'm sorry. So that snicker was me being 5 years old with my son for a moment in my head. Now back to this, you entrepreneurs who are, you're doing your thing and you're trying to grow and you're trying to get over the next hurdle and you're trying to get that next idea unlocked. The guests on this show, and hopefully me too, are going to be pouring into you and giving you anecdotes and knowledge and all of these opportunities to see things just a little bit different. And a guy I know, and I've heard this from a lot of people, but Paul Martinelli, who's a big time coach and a friend, talks about, 1 degree changes all the time. And if you imagine a sniper, in the military practicing, and he's going to hit a target 1,000 yards away, and he changes his trajectory by 1 degree, that can be miles difference with where the bullet actually lands compared to the target. 1 degree can put you on, or 1 degree can put you off. And so I believe in those micro changes, those small changes. And if you amass enough of them, you get more and more on target for what you want to do. So that, for our audience, that is exactly why we're here. And I say we're because this is not just me on screen. One, it's going to be a whole bunch of guests, but two, I've got this amazing team that believes in this mission. So like, I've got Tony and Miller in the room right now, and we're working on this particular episode together, and they're as bought into your success as I am, and I think that's amazing. So as you hear, it's not the royal we, like I'm a we. It's actually, there's a whole bunch of people who are actively, sowing seeds for hopefully your betterment and benefit. But then also, and I'm going to get into this presentation right about now, the legacy impact matrix is really at the core of the existence of seasoned entrepreneurs. So young entrepreneurs, I hope you see this and go, I want that to be me. And seasoned entrepreneurs, I hope you go, I align with this. And when you say that to yourself, I want you to reach out so that we can get you on this show. Without further ado, let me show you legacy impact matrix. For the first point to be made is that legacy, in my mind, gets conflated with impact a lot, and they're kissing cousins for certain, but they're not the same term. And I want to separate them so we can have a conversation around why they work together. So legacy is how you will be remembered and how long your memory is going to last. So that's about when you're dead and gone, what did you leave on this earth? But it's kind of self-centered in the sense that it's about remember me. This guy I used to know, Greg Policini, and his family, the Policini family, really cool family, and they're reasonably high net worth, and they have their names on a lot of buildings. And so I think of Greg and his family who, they have great impact in the community, but the way they live their life and the way they spend their gift of finance also breeds a lot of legacy in the sense that their name is stamped in a lot of places. And I think there's kind of this history books mindset, kind of like you want to have your name said alongside the titans of business or something in a history book at some point when you're thinking about legacy. And to get there must be impact. And so that's the degree to which your influence extends in the world. We talk a lot about people, and they don't always either have positive influence or maybe they didn't actually have influence. And what I know I want for my world, because influence and impact, they run concurrent as well. Impact means you've actually made a change. And that matters greatly. So let's imagine a line. And I'm going to try to move through this pretty fast because the images are useful. And by the way, if you're listening to this, go to bootstrappedunicorns.com, poke around, find this video and the assets so you can see these images. And if you're on YouTube, thanks for seeing these now. But the legacy line is just a horizontal line. And we're gonna build an XY axis in a second. And so the 0 point in the center is as if you have no legacy. And it's that neutral point I don't personally believe exists. I think the moment you're brought into this earth and you take your first breath, you're impacting your parents and the doctors and some people around you. And so your tiny little legacy is a moment of joy, and that's great. And then we move on and we keep doing things that cause us to move left or right on this line, positive or negative legacy. And then there's that vertical line. That y-axis is the degree of impact with which you've had. Positive being, of course, mathematically, it would be up, and negative being down. So let's start defining. I want to go right over to what each of these quadrants might mean. So if you have a positive impact in the world, therefore creating a positive legacy, then you've lived a notable life. Maybe you're quoted often. Your example is followed. And maybe you've even found ways to change laws or the way society even exists. Now, the polar opposite, way down in the corner here, is you've lived a notably vile life. You've got a negative impact and a negative legacy. You're never quoted, or if you are, it's quoted so that we can talk about how vile you are. And your example's just naturally avoided because you're just not somebody to follow. So let's just name drop one of the most common awful characters in history, Hitler. We can all agree, massively negative impact, massively negative legacy. Nothing good came from his existence. And so that's a very extreme thing to think anybody lands in that negative. And I'd like to believe the best in the world, and that we're not, as a human race, prone to living in that world. But then, there's positive impact and negative legacy. And those are people who live a notably cautionary life. Maybe they are quoted often, and maybe their example is avoided. I would hope so. But perhaps laws and ways of being have changed due to their negativity, maybe because we want to avoid that type of negativity. I certainly know some people like that. In fact, actually, I'll tell you, my own father, who is an interesting scoundrel, and he had some really sweet points to him, and he was always the life of the party and a lot of fun. He also was kind of a career criminal, and he did enough crazy things in his life that he lived a pretty cautionary life, things that you wouldn't want your kids to repeat. I remember the days when he couldn't go out of the house because he had an ankle monitor on because, the feds had him pinned down because he did that much stuff. And it's interesting with guys like that because you can watch the fruits of their labors and what they've done and the bad fruit that it created and go, I don't want to live that way. And so they're kind of the cautionary tale. And so, yes, it's a bit of a negative legacy. And some of the seeds he sowed, they grew pretty nasty fruit. But at the same time, by observation, there's a lot of people who are better for having seen guys like him and realize that behavior yields bad results and we're better for it. So it's kind of a positive impact. And then, of course, on the line of legacy, if you've got a positive legacy but a negative impact, it took me a while to wrap my head around what that might even mean as I was formulating this theory. And to me, if you've got a positive legacy but an extremely negative impact, you had an artificially notable life. And maybe you're quoted on demand, maybe you're in some history books, but your example is going to be very difficult to follow. And as you'll see, I liken this kind of section to a despot, somebody who's the Fidel Castros of the world, where you have to say something nice about them. You don't really have a choice. And it's an artificial legacy because he wasn't a great dude and he didn't lead a great country. There's great people who are suffering because of him, and they really couldn't speak out because he was dangerous. So anything that was said nice of him was said artificially. So let's look at this really quickly. Positive impact, positive legacy. The most extreme cases are the most quotable and fun cases out there. We could only aspire to being the MLKs, the Martin Luther King Jr.'s, and the JFKs, and the Gandhis of the world. We want to have that level of impact, and then, of course, we talk about them constantly, and it's so rightful that we do. That's where you end up with a positive legacy. And dictators, like I said, negative impact, positive legacy. Criminally insane would be in that negative world. And, the mob bosses of the world or controversial business leaders. Think about Bernie Madoff. What an awful human. He really harmed a lot of people. But he forced a lot of legal changes in this world that are going to benefit all of us through protections. So there was kind of this positive impact, even though I don't think there'll ever be a sentence said with his name and a positive legacy type comment. He was awful, yet we did benefit in retrospect. And so that's how that quadrant there, that upper left, works. So I have a belief that most of the world isn't far out like the Martin Luther King Jr.'s or the criminally insanes or anything like that. We're not that far from neutral. And I also think that like parents, great parents, your degree of impact on your own children is wonderful and notable. And in your family, you're building a great legacy, but it's not a world-known legacy, right? And I look at we entrepreneurs, as we have a little bit of a gift that we have an opportunity to go beyond the four walls of our home and get into a business setting. And we have, employee relationships, vendor relationships, client relationships, community relationships, and all of these things are an opportunity for us to grow that impact and ergo grow the line of legacy and go further into that positive part of the line of legacy. And so I'm looking for you entrepreneurs who are doing that because you are the right mindset to pay it forward and help oncoming new entrepreneurs. So if you want to make this as simple as it gets, I'm in BNI. Have you ever been in a BNI meeting, Business Networking International? We say it as a mantra, givers gain. And if you think about that degree of impact, it's about people. That's your focus is on people. If you're focused on yourself in order to move yourself along the line of legacy, I can tell you right now, your legacy will be truncated. It will be short because you're self-centered. That's just the bottom line. You're not going to be rewarded for that. You will be rewarded for pouring into others and growing others. That's what great leaders do. I spent some great time in the John Maxwell team, and they're now called the Maxwell Leadership Organization. And I'm certified in there and all of that, which is just, it's icing on the cake. But really, the treasure for me was that I got to spend a whole bunch of time with John Maxwell direct. I produced, a couple hundred videos for him and his team at this point. And I watched John live in moments, in bursts. And it's not like I've spent weeks and months with him, but he is not only focused on leadership as the thing that he does to get paid, right? But he is actually living leadership in that every interaction with John Maxwell pours into others. He is genuinely interested in who you are, what you represent in his world and the world around. And he's not terribly concerned about what he's going to get out of his relationship with you. He's very concerned about what he's going to be able to give so that you can grow. And I think it's just because he's keenly aware that as he grows others, it's just a law of the universe that his world and his influence all grow, in concert with others. So that's why everybody quotes him. That's why he's got hundreds of books out there at this point and tons of them on the New York Times bestseller list, because people know what he's made of, and he will be remembered for a very long time. His influence is set through those books now, and his legacy is strong because of it. He's focused on others. And so that's, that's this show. I can't wait to learn from all of the fellow entrepreneurs who are going to be on and watch what it does for and with me and you and everybody who's going to be gaining from these moments. So I do believe that entrepreneurs and business leaders, you're already living kind of outside that normal, what the rest of the world is doing, near that nucleus, that center point in this, this structure, this construct that I've dreamed up. Your success has already been bred by working diligently on creating that impact that breeds legacy by nature. But this is one more moment. So my invitation to you is, please come on this show. Please share all of the good and the bad. And you've been doing this for so long, there's no way we could share all of it. But come and tell us a story about how you started, the problems you ran into, the things that you tried, and what worked and what didn't. Give us the tips, give us the leg up, help all of us grow together. I'm reminded that I've tried about a million things so far in my career. Last episode, you heard a handful of the different businesses that I've started, but there was this one time it was late college, early MBA program. I decided that I was going to just start putting test balloons out there. And I worked with my dad to start a pitching mound company called Mounds by Pies. And we built 2 or 3 prototypes and got them into gymnasiums so we could have high school and college pitchers start practicing on these portable, durable pitcher's mounds to see if we could build a product that would be worth manufacturing. At the same time, I was writing a children's book, and I was illustrating it and working with publishers to see if we could get that out into the world, because I wanted to build an entertainment company with an educational bent using some characters that I'd created. And at the same time, we were looking at trying to test what it would be to create an internet entertainment company based on puppies, which I think I brought up last episode. And at the same time, when my own truck broke down, actually at that point it was my car, and I couldn't get to school, I went and financed a truck, and it turned into a snow plowing company. I had 4 businesses going all at the same time while starting my MBA program, because I firmly believe in fail fast, fail cheap as a mantra for startup culture in business. And it was full of lessons. And this is the type of thing that I want to hear from entrepreneurs. Like, how do you come up with your ideas? How did you test them? How did you fall into the business you do now? And I say fall into because a lot of them tripped into it and then found their way to greatness through trial and error. And so when I was in college, I was just like, all right, we're going to give all of these a go and talk about bootstrapping. I was working at Toys R Us as a sales associate on the sales floor to finance my existence. And that is how I was paying for all of these things. I learned that manufacturing is hard and that the industry breaking into baseball as a manufacturer for baseball, had we been maybe teaching and training, we could have done something a lot cheaper. It was a fascinating challenge to be a manufacturer in an industry like that. It just wasn't possible. So we ended up selling the couple of mounds we had, and that was a 6-month test. Great lessons learned. The education that I got from trying to get a book published was fascinating. That I actually got a book deal during that time frame, only to find out that my publisher was going to change their entire business model and send a form letter out to all of their new partners and authors, I guess, is what I classified as. And we had to rewrite all of our stuff to align with their new business model, or they were going to cut us loose. And what I had didn't fit their business model. So I learned that I was at the mercy of the publishers, and I had to figure out how to self-publish or champion my own journey if that was the route I wanted to take, because they had way more control than I as an entrepreneur was willing to let go of. Then, we had the snow plowing thing. I mean, that was ridiculous how it all started, and that's days worth of content that we'll bring into another show. But I will tell you that it was me problem solving. I had to get to school, and I couldn't afford to do what I needed to do on a Toys R Us hourly salary. I think I was blessed with a whopping like $9 an hour back then. There was no way to get my homework done, work on all these businesses, work at Toys R Us, and find a way to afford a vehicle. So I had to make my vehicle pay for itself. That's how that business started. And then it mushroomed into something that I never could have expected, and millionaire status was about 2.5 years away. So that one's the one that took. All these other super professional things were happening at the same time. And I'm going down this rabbit trail, and I don't fully understand why, to be honest. Sometimes these things just have to happen. But I tell you that entrepreneurship is a fascinating journey with a lot of trips and falls. So fellow entrepreneurs who are going to come onto this show, I hope you have that level of truth in you that you can talk about the stuff that didn't work and how you meandered and found your way to the stuff that did work. And you might not have my story where there was some meandering going on, but for me there was. Oh, I forgot to tell you what happened with that online pet entertainment channel. Didn't work. Streaming wasn't fast enough for our content at that time in the industry. The internet didn't have that capability. This was pre-YouTube. So we tried it and it didn't work. But I had 4 things going at once, tripped into one, and you entrepreneurs have done the same thing. Startup entrepreneurs, I want you to know that the thing you're on right now may not be the final thing. The point that I guess I'm making right now is you can try, and you can meet failure with an attitude that is learning from failure. And then as you grow and you have that story, you come on here and you share it with others so they learn how to meet with failure and champion their next move. I hope you find a way to get so passionate about this journey that you crave impact. Because once you find that, and it's real for you, I promise you, your confidence is so high that you are bound for success. Until you believe it, you don't believe it. So look for that. Look for that moment. So on the next episode, we're going to maybe go over a little of that fail fast, fail cheap concept. And then I think, guys, what do you say, episode 4, should we just start getting some guests on here and rock it?
Sounds good.
All right. This is the Bootstrapped Unicorns podcast. I'm Josh Pies. They, in the business here, call me the chief attention getter at C47. But to you, just call me the Unicorn Whisperer for now. We need a good title for me at some point. I don't have it yet. So why don't you actually send me a message and let me know what should my title on the podcast be? I would love to hear from the crowd. I listen well. So maybe you've got a good title for me as the host. Host is too boring for me. I need something more than that. And until then, I expect to hear from entrepreneurs who want to be on the show. Talk to you soon. Next episode drops next week.